Hi, my name is Ron Frank. I'm also known as Al N. Frank and R. Albert Frank. Um, I'm a writer, a poet, and just an American, and a voiceover actor. This is segment 6 of a script that Michael Elsey helped me write called Or to the People. Patriot. Voiceover. Such were the words I heard from Washington's own lips, and America will do well to profit by them. This was part of the fabric that, as a part of the general, few knew about in detail, and it is this man, Washington, that at his insistence and with his own honesty and dedication to the endeavor to ensure the future of the American experiment, that had Thomas Jefferson listened to him and agreed to stay in government service upon Thomas's return from France. From the overlay, our patriot reappears. The battle scene in the background, patriot. In his own words then at that time, as yet we are but in the first chapter of its history. The appeal to the rights of man, which had been made in the U.S., was taken up by France, first of the European nations. Today, could we be in the third part? A series of full-face portraits of Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, Monroe, and Madison. Dissolves through the scene in sequence. Jefferson, voiceover. We were in circumstances peculiarly favorable for a knowledge of the truth, possessing the confidence and intimacy of the leading patriots. And shall we refuse the unhappy fugitives from distress that hospitality which the savages of the wilderness extended to our fathers arriving in this land? Shall oppressed humanity find no asylum on this globe? Narrator. These questions are as true today as they were when Thomas Jefferson and those like him fought for them themselves, and those of us who would come along through the course of time. Let's look and listen. Maybe Jefferson can help us keep faith with him and General Washington, who would lose his last drop of blood to ensure this form of government a fair trial. To do that, shouldn't we at least try what Thomas advises us to do, as he and Madison did during the Alien and Sedition Acts? Stay with the Constitution and demand the respect of the freedoms of the people, those powers that we, the people, have, and not acknowledge any assumptions or usurpations of them at all by the federal government, or state governments coerced into enacting any legislation at the insistence of the illegal actions of the general government. The solutions that Jefferson and Madison found and lived in the Kentucky and Virginia resolutions, the guidance and advice in the writings, letters, and documents of the era that transcends time, are true today. Here, in Jefferson's first annual message to Congress, are our guiding principles. True yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Patriot. Our country is known to be the representation of a new constellation. Our flag represents that new constellation. And Thomas Jefferson lets us all know what that means in his first annual message to Congress. He says, dissolve. Excuse me, I'm inserting this here. To assume and to assume something, to how was it worded? Lewis Carroll worded it in Alice in Wonderland. Under the color of law, to do things you're not allowed to do is what we meant earlier in that. Okay. There we go. Dissolve. Jefferson's first annual message, Washington, D.C., December 8th, 1801. To usurp powers, to assume powers the government doesn't have, is what they've been doing. On the scene in Congress, as Jefferson delivers the first of his annual messages, he will be giving, as President to Congress and to the American people. Close-up, tight on Jefferson's eyes. Now that we have gone through the looking glass into his visions and works. Jefferson voiceover. Confidence from our fellow citizens resulting not from birth but from our actions and their sense of them. Dissolved to American Indian powwow, split screen, and a company picnic. Jefferson's voiceover. Enlightened by a benign religion, professed indeed and practiced in various forms, yet all of them inculcating honesty, truth, temperance, gratitude, and the love of man. Exterior present-day baseball game, split screen, Little League game, opening day. Jefferson addressing Congress. Jefferson voiceover. Acknowledging and adoring an overruling providence which by all its dispensations proves that it delights in the happiness of man here and his greater happiness hereafter. What else is necessary? Narrator. What else could there be? Now Jefferson begins to describe, yea, to paint a picture in words of that new constellation known to all of us as the United States of America. Dissolve, tight shot of the two American flags, one in ballpark, the other in Congress. Both flags converge to become one. Dissolve, exterior montage of presidents of the United States of America throwing out the first ball of the season. Music soft in the background, take me out to the ball game. Jefferson, voiceover. The essential principles of our government equal and exact justice to all men, of whatever state or persuasion, religious or political. Peace, commerce, and honest friendship with all nations, entangling alliances with none. The support of the state governments in all their rights as the most competent administrations for our domestic concerns and the surest against anti-republican tendencies. The preservation of the general government in its whole constitutional vigor as the sheet anchor of our peace at home and safety abroad. A jealous care of the right of election by the people. A mild and safe corrective of abuses which peaceable remedies are provided. We meant provided, not unprovided. Absolute acquiescence in the decisions of the majority, the vital principle of republics, from which is no appeal but to force. The vital principles and immediate parent of despotism. I'll read that one more time. Absolute acquiescence in the decisions of the majority, the vital principle of republics, from which is no appeal but to force. The vital principle and immediate parent of despotism. A well-disciplined militia, our best reliance in peace, and for the first moments of war, till regulars may relieve them. The supremacy of the civil over the military authority. Economy in the public expense, that labor may be lightly burdened. The honest payment of our debts, and sacred preservation of the public faith. Encouragement of agriculture and of commerce as its handmaid. The diffusion of information and arrangement of all abuses at the bar of the public reason. Freedom of religion, freedom of the press, freedom of person under the protection of the habeas corpus, and trial by juries impartially selected. Dissolve. Dawn. Arlington National Cemetery. Camera moves across the cemetery, comes to a stop in front of a grave marker. Close-up of a marker, the inscription, quote, "I kept the faith," end quote. Camera continues moving through Arlington to the eternal flame at the gravesite of President Kennedy. A continuous overlay of the 13-star flag on screen. Jefferson. Voiceover. These principles form the bright constellation which has gone before us and guided our steps through an age of revolution and reformation. The wisdom of our sages and the blood of our heroes have been devoted to its attainment. Overlay. A group of people about to take the oath to become citizens of the USA. Split screen. Grade school students in class listening and reading Jefferson's words, their voices converging. Split screen dissolve. Students today, students of Jefferson's day, jointly reading the same passages. Dissolve, split screen to one. Montage of students from 1801 to present, reading in unison. Jefferson and students voiceover. They should be the creed of our political faith, the text of our civic instruction, the touchstone by which to try the services of those we trust. And should we wander from them in moments of error or alarm, let us hasten to retrace our steps and to regain the road which alone leads to peace, liberty, and safety. May that infinite power which rules the destinies of the universe lead our counsels to what is best and give them a favorable issue for your peace and prosperity. Patriot at the side of the frame. Patriot. This guidance and the example of his office and his works for the good of all the people would not have happened had Jefferson done what he wanted to do with no regard to the needs of others. To be continued next segment, Lord willing.